Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I It's alive!
Welcome to where the weird ones are.
Every time I speak, I want the truth to come out.
Powerful figures in Hollywood as well as powerful politicians who are in fact not human. They're reptiles or they're lizards or perhaps extraterrestrials.
I don't think it is a human. I think it's a Sasquatch.
Go ahead and run. Run home and cry to mama.
Let's get weird.
What's up, you fucking weirdos? Welcome to another episode of Where the Weird Ones Are. My name is Kevin, but you probably already knew that, and if you didn't, now you do. Today's episode is with Dale and Jeannie. First of all, lovely couple. Really enjoyed talking to them. Super sweet people. Definitely gonna have them come back. There's more stories that they have to tell, and I'm super excited to talk to them about the spooky stuff that they also love to talk about. So, um, but today's episode, we get into some of their uh their first experiences. So Dale didn't really experience anything until he was an adult. Um, and then Jeannie completely different. As far back as she can remember, she's been experiencing stuff. But they did tell me super interesting story about Dale being attacked at a hotel that they like to investigate. Um, he was actually attacked twice, and when you hear the EVP recording, well, I mean, they don't share it, they didn't record it, but like they um they just tell you what happened, and it's super interesting. Jaw dropping. It's amazing. I mean, obviously I wish they recorded it so we could have it cuz that's amazing evidence in my opinion, but you know, but yeah, again, super sweet people. Um yeah, so quick shout out to Flavors of the Forest. They are today's sponsor and everyday's sponsor really because I love them. Um It's raw garlic dust. You're not gonna find anything better. I promise you. I'm gonna tell you every week. So if you guys are trying it and if you're getting it and you're trying it, please let me know and tell me what you think because I'd love to hear about what you think about it. Um, so yeah, raw garlic dust, fucking delicious. Bigfoot's breath, dude. They have a bunch of infused flavors: lion's mane, cranberry, horseradish, ginger. Um, and then just plain old garlic, which I love. I likes it. It's also in the hot sauces. So yeah. So flavorsforest.com. Go get yourself some. You can also follow them on Instagram, Flavors Forest. Nelson and Matt, phenomenal dudes. Can't think of a better pair of people that I've come to know in this realm since I've started doing this podcast. Um, but yeah, so if you like today's episode, please like, follow, share, subscribe, leave a rating and review. I'd greatly appreciate it. If your catcher doesn't allow you to leave a review, please consider doing so on the website where the weird ones are podcast.com. I've gotten a few reviews, I've gotten guest requests and stuff like that. um, on there. But you can also get hot sauce, merch, and coffee and supplements on the website as well. So yeah, if you're interested, I mean, if you're interested in getting coffee, hot sauce, or any of the supplements, or any of the merchandise, you get something. You're supporting the show, and you're getting something out of it as well. Um, I get a little piece of the profits on all that stuff. So if you're interested in doing that, Patreon's up there, $5 a month, pretty inexpensive. You just get the episodes early without any ads, any intro or anything like that. I'm the kind of person that really enjoys intros, intro music and stuff like that when I listen to podcasts. So I definitely don't blame you if you decide not to become a Patreon member because I don't think I would either. So um I don't know. I'm just saying, but it's there if you're interested. It's there if you're interested in doing it, you know. So, and I do appreciate the Patreon members that I do have. I love you all. Um, but yeah, life's been pretty interesting. Happy to still be here for another week, and yeah, I wanted to talk at you about something else, and I can't frickin' remember. But maybe I'll remember in the next intro if you happen to listen to my intros. And if you don't listen to my intros, that's totally fine too. I don't mind. But yeah, I'm super happy to be alive. I'm super happy to be having these kind of conversations. Some of them don't go as planned. Some of them I learned stuff. Some of them it's just it's a fun journey, and I hope to be able to do this for a long time. But I am going to be doing paranormal investigations with my cousin coming up soon, so stay tuned for that. That's going to be on a completely different YouTube channel. If you're watching this episode on YouTube, it's going to have its own YouTube channel along with my documentary. So we'll be posting paranormal investigations and documentaries on the other YouTube, which is going to be Where the Weird Ones Go Productions YouTube channel. So. Other than that, everybody, I think that about I think that covers it. Other than the event that I have coming up in May. I think there's another one in April, actually. I can't remember. I should write them all down and put them on a list here so when I want to talk about them, I can actually remember the dates and shit. So, anywho, why don't we get into the conversation with Dale and Ginny, shall we?
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Let's get weird. Let's get weird. Let's get weird. Let's get weird. Weird, get weird.
Hey, this is Rochelle Stratton, and you are listening to Kevin with Where the Weird Ones Are. So sit back, relax, and enjoy.
It's interesting with Riverside. Sometimes it's really weird how it works sometimes. And Zoom this whole platform right now today is completely different from the last time I used it, which was like pretty close to a year ago now. But
Oh, wow.
yeah,
Okay.
so But anyways, welcome everybody to another episode. So happy to have you here today. We have I want to say it is your last name Hoos, Jenny
Van Hoos.
Hoos, Van
It's
Hoos,
Jeannie. It's Jeannie. I dream of
Jeannie.
Jeannie. Jeannie Van Hoos. It's two names, two last names.
What is that like?
It's Dutch.
Oh, I was gonna say Finnish, but
Yeah, it's a Dutch name. Yes.
that's an interesting last name. I like it a lot. I kind of wish it was mine, to be honest with you.
Well, thank you.
And we
Thank
also
you.
have Dale. Dale is with her as well. So happy to meet you guys. I'm looking forward to this conversation. Just the off-air conversation was already piquing my interest. I was like, holy cow, this is gonna be an awesome talk. So happy to have you guys here. If you don't mind, real quick, let everybody know just like a little bit of your background and what it is you do.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for having Dale and me on the show, and we're very excited, and it's such a pleasure to meet you. And we want to say hello to your audience and your fans, and we hope that what we share with you tonight will be helpful, will be something that you can use as well, or maybe something that we're going to talk about happened to you, and now you've got answers. But I am a paranormal investigator. I am a part of a paranormal team called the Para Hunters out of Denver, Texas. Dale and I are located in Crowley, Texas. Fort Worth is a very large area that covers a lot of area, and so I am a school teacher by profession. But I also do a lot of paranormal investigations with my team. We also do private investigations, and since I've been here in Fort Worth, we have been in the business of buying and selling antiques.
Nice.
Dale?
Yep. I've recently, within the last year, really got into the paranormal investigating. I had my first paranormal experience. It's probably been 5 or 6 years ago. Uh, I was in the bathroom in my house. I moved back into the house I grew up in, and so the house is about 55 years old. But I was in the bathroom, and the light started flickering, and which I thought kind of odd because looking to the rest of the house, and it's the only room that was flickering is that particular room. And at that time, I heard a voice off into the far part of the house toward the kitchen, and I was the only one in the house. And then my radio alarm clocks, I had one on either side of the bed on the nightstands, and they both went off blaring, loud as they could be. At the same time, I went back there, and they were both in an off position. And I slid, one of them's a slide one, and I slid it on every position, and I could not get it to turn off. I literally had to unplug it to get it to turn off. I went over to the other one, and it was more of a dial set, and it was in off position as well. And I moved it to off positions. None of them would turn it off. There again, I had to unplug it, and I went back into the bathroom. I knew that nothing natural could explain it. The lights flickering, maybe so, but then hearing the voice, and then the radio's going off, and it was just, I felt like my father passed away in the house years ago, and I believe it was him that was trying to get in contact with me through the electricity, evidently. So, and I've learned since that that's a lot of times how they'll go through the electricity to be able to respond, the energy.
Yes, yes. I when you were first telling the story, I thought you were gonna say when you unplugged it, it was still it's still on, because that would have
And that would
been
be spooky, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
But just the fact that they both went off at the same time in the off position to me was pretty bizarre.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I've never experienced anything like that, but I there's it's interesting when you have a loved one that's passed and you're experiencing something and you just get this feeling, you know what I mean? Like that it's
Yeah.
them. Like I've had that happen with my uncle. I mean, my audience knows the story by now. I was just laying in bed one morning, and I was kind of like on my side but on my belly at the same time, and my dog had her head on my thigh, and she picked her head up like she was watching somebody walk into my bedroom, and then she just was like she was looking at something, and then she laid her head back down like it was, oh, it's okay, I know this person kind of thing. And then
Oh, well.
right then as she did that, I felt weight at the foot of my bed next to my feet, like somebody had sat down, and I got really scared like initially, but I had this like sensation that it was my uncle that had passed a few years prior, and it was just this like weird thing, like everything's gonna be okay, kind of like message. You know what I mean? Like he didn't
Yeah.
have words, and I didn't hear anything or anything like that, but it was just like this knowing, uh, you know?
Right,
Yeah.
right. And when I moved in with Dale, I encountered something similar. I
Hmm.
was in the bathroom, and I was putting on makeup and fixing my hair, and all of a sudden the light fixtures just started having a light show, and it was going on and off, and you could hear static. And sometimes you'll hear that when it's paranormal, you'll hear like a static sound.
Hmm.
Um and and it just kept doing it, and I knew that it wasn't electrical. I knew that it was paranormal, because number one, I do have gifts. I am an empath, a sensitive, and a healer, and I did sense that it was a male presence, and it
Hmm.
was an older man, and I knew that it was his father, and his father was letting me know that he was there, and he knew I was there, and he wanted me to know it.
Hmm.
And I have felt his presence in this house a lot, and I can hear him moving about. I even saw him briefly, but it was very brief. And I saw him, but he looked solid, but it was in the dark. But he
Hmm.
was darker than the dark. Do you understand?
Yes, yeah.
It was something that stood out, and the image that I saw was in the shape of a man, and it was a large man, and that's exactly the way Dale's father looked. And so, but it wasn't anything ominous. I wasn't afraid, not anywhere close to that. I felt very comfortable and at ease. And that's not always the case. I have been in places where I felt, oh, this isn't good. I'm not feeling, you get the stomach ache, the headache, but this didn't give me that. So I knew it was something, it was someone that was a family member, and it was someone that I felt safe with.
Nice. And this is the
Mhm.
house that you're living in currently.
That's right. Yes, this is the house that we're living in. This is the house that Dale's parents bought when he was what, 3 years old,
We moved here, I was five.
5 years old. Yeah, and
Wow.
so this house has a lot of history, a lot of stories, and we've had some interesting things happen in this house.
So Dale, your first experience happened as an adult. Jeannie, do you know when your first experience was?
Yes, I started having experiences when I was a child. Um, I was living in Key West, Florida. My father was stationed in the military. We were in the military. Dad was in the military. We were stationed there. And my
Mhm.
mother was a school teacher, and my dad had been called to Key West to work on the missiles there. They have a base with missiles, And so we were living in the military housing called Sigsbee, and all the houses look like cookie cutters. They all look the same with a carport. And so I probably had my first experience when I was about maybe 11, 12 years old. I was in my room and it was late at night, and I could hear the laughter of children playing outside my bedroom. And I could hear them out there giggling, and I could hear a ball bouncing, and they were having a lot of fun. And I thought, wow, this is a school night. What are they doing out there? And so I raised up because the headboard of my bed was up against the window. So I raised up and I looked out, and when I did, there was no one there. It was just as um, um, sparse and dark, and not a soul out there on the street. And I thought, wow, they couldn't have moved that fast. Now you have to remember, this is the mind of a child that's about 11 years old, 11, 12 years old. So I didn't think anything of it. And I slid back down on my bed, started to go back to sleep, and heard it again. And again, I raised up, and this time I was faster. I was going to get up there really fast because I wanted to catch them. Total silence, nothing out there. So I just slid back down, and I thought, wow, that's really crazy. So then a few months later, I woke up in the middle of the night, and in the corner of my room was this black thing. And that's all I could call it, is a thing. And it was black in the corner of my room, across the room. And when I woke up and saw it, I thought it was one of my stuffed animals. And I was trying to focus and try to get this thought in my head, what is this thing? And I couldn't make heads or tails of it. And I kept looking at it, and I suddenly got this frightening feeling that, what I was looking at was not good. And it made me scared. And so I thought, I'm just going to roll over and ignore it. And suddenly I felt a horrible pain on my leg. And so I reached down under the covers to touch my leg, and I could feel that it was wet, and I could feel like a scratch, a huge scratch. And when I brought my hand out, I had blood on my hands. And I jumped out of that bed, and I ran out of that room to my mother and father's bedroom, and I was screaming. Mm-hmm. And my mother and father consoled me, and they said, it's okay, what's going on? And I told them, and they said, Jeannie, you just have an over imagination. You're overacting. You must have been dreaming. You're about to go through adolescence, growing pains. They were giving me every excuse under the sun. And I bought it. Didn't think another thing of it. Well, it continued, and it didn't stop. And I would look periodically, and that thing would be there. And I just figured, well, it's my imagination. My eyes are playing tricks in the dark. I'm going to believe what my mom and dad said, and I'm going to let it go. And I continued to have strange things happen to me, but I always went back to what my mother said. It was my overly imaginative mind that I was just, very I was very precocious. My mother also called me an old soul. And I never understood that. And I asked her one time, she said, you just act older than your age. And as I got older and still continued to have these things happen to me, I'm now wiser. I know this isn't my imagination. I know it's not growing pains. I know it's not adolescence. I've done that. There's more to this. And I found out that I had gifts. And I started looking for people who were like me. And I was reaching out trying to find somebody that had something similar. And people who have this are drawn to each other because we want to talk to other people so we don't think we're going crazy and think there's something wrong with us.
Mm-hmm.
We're losing our minds. And come to find out, Kevin, I honestly think that my mother had gifts and my grandmother had gifts. And this is hereditary. But back when my grandmother and my grandmother lived, the paranormal was not spoken. It was taboo. You didn't mention it, you didn't talk about it. And if you did, they thought you were the crazy lady down the street. They thought that you were crazy and you need to go, you need to go see a psychiatrist. There's something wrong with you. You're talking to dead people. You're hearing
Yeah.
voices. And so I think that's why my mother tried to protect me and not let me know that what I was seeing and experiences was actually valid, but she wanted to protect me from that ridicule
Right.
and from people judging me.
Mm-hmm.
But now we're out. We're in the open. We're letting everybody know, and now we can talk about it. It's not taboo anymore. And to your
Absolutely.
audience, if you're having anything, if you're feeling something, don't be afraid to talk about it. Let people know.
Yes, absolutely. When you put your hand on your leg and you had blood, was that like something that was projected into your mind by this thing, or
No,
was it an actual?
it was an actual scratch. And my
Okay.
mother said that I did it. She said, "Oh, you did it in your sleep. You were probably tossing and turning and you just scratched yourself." Well, I knew better because I was wide awake and I tried to convince her of that, but she kept saying, "No, no, you thought you were wide awake, but you weren't, baby. You were sleeping." So,
That's
no, I know what happened. And now that I'm older and wiser, I can go back and look at that. And now I'm wondering what that was. Now, I talked to another podcaster named Tommy Cullum. I don't
yeah.
know if you're familiar with him. He's awesome. And,
Yeah, we're
and
best
shout out to
friends.
Tommy. I love Tommy.
We're
And
best
I
friends. He's
told
gonna
him
move
about
in with me someday.
he's an awesome guy. And I told him about this. I told him the same story, and he told me that it could be the spirit of a wolf. That there is a legend or something about what did he say? That some people have seen um like a dog, like spirit that appears in their room, and it's solid black. And he says that's you may need to ask him.
Dog man, isn't that
It's
what he
like a
called it?
dog man.
They mentioned that
Huh,
name.
that's interesting. I know, like, because Dogman is a cryptid. I don't know if there's like I think that I think I know what you're saying that he was saying, but I can't like at the moment the gears are turning and I just can't. It's not clicking in my
Right,
head right now. But
right,
that's interesting. So the thing that was in your room with you, you couldn't quite see it, correct?
right. But it looked like the shape
It
of
was,
a dog,
and it was low.
and it was low, kind of like a one of those tall, big stuffed animals.
Yeah.
But there was no stuffed animal in that corner. There was nothing there because I went the next day. We went in my room to look, and we didn't. There wasn't anything in that corner.
Hmm.
And but it was, and I described it as being solid black, tall, and you could see like ears, like points, like little ears. Didn't look like the devil because
Hmm.
as a child I saw pictures of images of what the devil is supposed to look like. It didn't look like that. It looked like maybe a German Shepherd, a dog. It looked like a dog. And and I did have some stuffed animals, and they were dogs, but they were tiny. They weren't big.
Yeah.
And I just kept thinking, well, maybe I have a stuffed animal over there that I'm not sure of. But my mother kept telling me, well, your eyes play tricks with you in the dark. And my mother was debunking it any way she could to a child,
Right.
to get her to understand. But I think she knew. And they moved me to the next room over. And when I moved over to the next bedroom, I had no problems there. It was something about that
Oh,
room.
well.
Did somebody else go into that room after you moved or stayed empty?
Nope, never had a problem in that room. And
Huh.
we kind of closed that room off, and we really didn't do anything but use it as a storage room, just keep stuff in there that we weren't using.
Yeah.
So we closed that room off. Well,
Oh
that's what my
wow.
mother did. That's what my
That
mother did. As a
that may
child, I just thought
yeah,
it's a
that makes
storage
me
room now.
yeah, that makes me think that your mom did know even more that she moved you out of the room and then didn't put anybody else into that room, you know.
Right.
So that lends more credence, in my opinion, anyway, that she kind of had a inkling of
Yeah.
something, you know.
Yep.
It's
Yes.
interesting to recall memories to see other like when you're talking about it, and then you almost think that everybody else around you has no idea of what was going on. And the more you talk about it and the more you kind of realize that the things that they were doing, it's like I think they did know this whole time.
Right.
Like like a lot of my experiences I've experienced with my sister, and I'm like, she had to know. Like we never talked about it really. I mean, there was times that we had talked about it, but I'm like, she had to know. And then I'd be like, hey, you remember this one time? She'd be like, yeah, I remember. And I was like, oh my God, you did know. You did see that. That's so crazy. Like my first ever paranormal experience was with my sister too. So
Oh,
um
what
so it's a
happened?
we were like 3 and 4. I think she was 3, I was 4. Um, actually, we might have been 5 and 4, but either way, it doesn't matter. We were toddler, young, very small child, and I remember the whole night like extremely vividly. And we had just gotten done watching Ghostbusters 2, which I think my parents kind of used that as like, oh, we used to watch this and now you think that everything's a ghost. But my sister went into her bedroom and she started screaming, saying that she saw a witch in her room,
Oh,
in her window, I should say. She's like, I see a witch, I see a witch. And I was like, I remember walking by her room, she's crying, and my dad had just gotten home from work. Too. So he was still in his work clothes and stuff, and he was trying to console her because we were supposed to be getting ready for bed. And I was like, oh, she's crazy. And I walked down to the end of the hall into my room, and it's the window's right in front of the doorway. And I see these two figures just kind of like fly by. And we were like we were in a trailer, but we were raised. Like it was a I don't know if you've ever seen a raised trailer, but it like almost like you could probably almost
yeah.
put like another trailer under it, kind of, not really, but like maybe like a half one. But we were on the
Okay.
side of a mountain in Vermont and in the middle of the
Wow.
woods, and
Oh, well.
these two figures just flew by my window, like, and they were darker than the darkness. And I always associate, because my sister said witch, so I always because I couldn't tell like exactly like any like defining characteristics to their figure, but I knew it was something like person looking. And so I associated them with two witches on brooms just flying around our house going. And so I because we actually both me and my sister were on Tommy's podcast like 2 years ago, and we were talking about this stuff, and this was probably the most recent, other than when we were kids, that we just discussed this happening. And she's like, I remember seeing a face I was like, well, you said witch. She's like, I might have said witch, but I saw a face in the window. And I was like, well, that's creepy too. Like, you're regardless of seeing
Right.
something that's not supposed to be pressed up against your window is freaky. I was like, especially given the height of the trailer, because we had steps, quite a bit of steps to our porch. Um, and to be like in her window, even just a regular person standing up, you had to be at least like 6'5" to be able to get your
Oh,
face
wow.
against her window.
Oh,
So,
wow. Yeah, spirits can reach you at any height.
yes,
They can
right.
if they want to get to you, they'll get to you. And they will show themselves. It's interesting that you said that you saw a witch. I have seen the old hag, and the old hag looks kind of like a witch. And the old hag goes back centuries,
Hmm.
and not very many people have seen her. But she's a very ugly looking old woman with gray hair that's kind of wiry, wild.
Is it at a bridge? Pardon me for. Is it at a bridge?
No, not at a bridge.
Okay.
No, no, no.
I don't know why that just came in my head.
A bridge? No.
Some type of bridge, like
Yeah.
railroad trestle.
Did you just get that vision?
Yeah.
Okay. No, I wish you'd been at a railroad tracks, but this was in my room. I saw her when I was having something that is called sleep paralysis.
Yep.
And even though it's a medical condition and I have only had it 3 times in my life, um, I do think that you do see spirits during that time. And that's when I saw her during one of those sleep paralysis. And she was sitting right by my bed. I had a vanity with a stool in front of it. She was sitting on that stool next to my bed. And while I was feeling like I was dying and I'm being held down, I cannot make any noise. I'm trying to scream. I'm aware of everything that's going on in the room. My eyes are wide awake. I'm looking around, but I can't move and I can't break free. And I feel like I'm dying and I'm scared out of my wits.
Mhm.
And I can barely turn my head. And when I turn, she's sitting right there looking at me and she's laughing and cackling. And she has no teeth and she's very wrinkly and she's wearing this kind of a white hospital looking gown. And she's just laughing like she thinks it is the funniest thing watching me suffer like that. And then finally, I break through and she's gone.
Wow.
Yeah, and I've seen her a few more times. And it's not my active imagination.
Mhm.
I don't know why she appears to some of us, but she does.
That's interesting.
So,
I've had sleep paralysis my off and on my entire life.
mhm,
Most of the time I don't see anything.
mhm,
But in this house I woke up to, so my girlfriend and I had just started seeing each other, and she wasn't living here at the time. And she had left, and I woke up to my name being called, and I just opened my eyes and I'm like, huh? And I see this woman entering my room, but I can't move, and all I can move is my eyes, right? So I'm like
right?
looking around the room to see what like is close to me, and I could see my hand. I'm sprawled out like a freaking like a starfish too, which was pretty
Yeah,
interesting. And my phone was right there next to my bed, and I ended up being able to wiggle my fingers, but this like I didn't start trying to actually actively look for something until this woman came into my room, and she was very like she was the out of all the so she was more of a shadow figure. Like there was no distinct features or anything. So it was just like a silhouette. And out of all the shadow people that I've seen, this one was the most characterized one that it was long. She had long flowing hair. She was very voluptuous, like huge, like big hips, and she was just something that obviously I wouldn't mind having in my bedroom, but in this instance, I was like, no, So I'm looking around, and I could feel my fingers moving, so my eyes dart to my fingers, and I can see my phone, and I'm like, I need my phone so I can shine a light on because the light switch is right next to the doorway, and she comes in, and the best way that I can describe it is that she was moving like C3PO. It was very robotic, like as she's coming in, and it was like this, and I was like, I started being able to not like I was started to have a hard time breathing, and
Yeah.
she got to the foot of my bed and was about to like get onto my bed, and I broke out of it and grabbed my phone and sat up and lit my flashlight up, and there was nothing there, and
Wow.
I started sweating instantly. As soon as I realized there was nothing there, sweat just started pouring out off of me. It was crazy.
Wow. Well, I'm not very versed on this topic.
Yeah.
But the first thing that came to my mind when you were talking about that, and I know your audience will be able to help me here, but I'm thinking that it sounds like it was an incubus, and
Yeah.
it's a female. I'm not sure if I got it right. There's a name for the female and one for the male.
Yeah,
And
succubus is the female, the incubus is the male.
yes.
Yeah.
And they're there for and I hate to say it, but they're there for hanky panky.
Yeah.
That's the impression you get because they're very voluptuous, very shapely. They're there to tantalize you and
Hmm.
whatever. I've heard about that. Thankfully, I have not had that experience, but it sounds like when you were talking about and described her, it sounded like that.
Yeah,
And I
so
don't know what would cause that.
I mean, me neither. It's I don't know. It's interesting because a lot of people that I've talked to about it, we get onto that subject, and I was like, I mean, nothing happened, at least that I know of. It could be
Yeah,
like a thing of like, when people get abducted by aliens or something, they don't
yeah,
remember the experience until years and
yeah.
years later. Um, so maybe, possibly, maybe it's been here my entire life, and this is the only instance that I'm remembering it, you know?
Okay. Okay. Interesting.
Because a lot of succubus and incubus have been they're usually with their person for a while. I know that so my ex-wife's niece, she had a boyfriend not to when she was young, and they slept over. They babysat our kids one night so we could have a date night, and they ended up sleeping in our living room, and we came down the next morning. We're all having breakfast, and um he had a scratch on his shoulder, and I'm thinking that it was from her, and I was like, hey, if you guys are gonna do that stuff, not in this house, like you take it to your house. And
You're right.
they're like, what are you talking about? And I was like, I see that on his shoulder. And she's like, that wasn't me. And he goes, oh, I have a succubus. And I was like, what? He's like, yeah. He goes, and he's grabbing his shoulder. He's like, she gets aggressive because she doesn't like Genevieve, which Genevieve was my ex's niece. And he started
Right.
going into this story that it's been with him his entire life. And that night that they were in my living room, she had apparently put her head next to was about to put her head next to her boyfriend, and you just hear she said, I heard a slap, and I could see a imprint of a hand on the pillow next to his head. And then we wake up and he has a freaking huge scratch on his shoulder.
Oh my gosh.
I was like,
That's crazy.
what?
That's,
Yeah, yeah. I was
now
like,
that would creep me out.
I've talked to
That would
him.
creep me out.
Yeah, it would. Yeah, and when sitting there listening to it, I was like, listen, you got to get out of here. I have children.
Right. Well, that sounds like a jealous attack. Um, um, and which reminds me of what happened to Dale.
Yeah.
Dale had a real life-changing situation recently at our favorite hotel, which is the Jefferson Hotel in Jefferson, Texas. And all your viewers, if you have not been, you need to go. My good friends, Pam and Jeremy Jones, own it. And it is absolutely fabulous. It's one of a kind. You'll never see another hotel like it. It will blow your mind. And not only of all the artifacts that are in there and things that Jeremy's collected throughout his travels and what he's decorated the hotel with, but it is one of the most extremely active hotels that I have been in. And I have been going to the Jefferson Hotel for many years. I have investigated it for many years. And I decided that I was going to take Dale because I wanted Dale to experience and I wanted to get him more into the paranormal because I think he's open to it and he has some gifts of his own that he needs to cultivate.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, we're going to go to the Jefferson Hotel. I want you to meet Pam and Jeremy. I want you to experience this hotel. Well, this particular weekend, we were given the doll room. And the doll room is the room that hardly anyone likes to stay there because it's creepy. There's dolls hanging from the ceiling. There are just 1,000 dolls in this room. And so when you go to sleep at night, you've got all these dolls looking at you. And some of these dolls are haunted. Well, so we got the doll room. Well, Dale wasn't taken by that. But I told him, I said, I need to tell you about a spirit that roams the Jefferson Hotel, and his name is Nick. And I said, years ago, the Jefferson Hotel used to be a factory. And back in the 1800s, when it was a factory, they would hire children to work in these factories because of their small hands. They could get their hands through pieces of machinery that adult hands couldn't get through. And of course, this was before child labor law.
Mm-hmm.
And so Nick worked there. And I don't know quite what his capacity was. I don't know if he was a foreman. I don't know if he was the boss, but I do know that he was a child molester. And having this job at this factory where they hired children was a perfect opportunity for him to come in contact with children. Well, being a school teacher, I'm a protector of children. And I told the spirit Nick, I said, you need to leave the children alone because we were getting EVPs of children crying and saying that something was harming them, touching them. And these are spirit children that are scared. And we found out it was a spirit named Nick. So I didn't provoke him. I just said to him, I said, you need to stop what you're doing. I said, what you're doing is wrong. I said, it was wrong when you were alive, and it's wrong now that you're in your death state, in your spirit state. I said, you need to stop this and leave these children alone. And he didn't like it. So he started calling me all kinds of bad names. He called me the B name a lot. And he would call me other names that are synonymous to that word. And it was just all the time. And he even did some other things that I'll go into later if we have the time. He did some other things, but Nick knows me. So when I took Dale to the Jefferson Hotel and we were staying in the doll room, which happens to be Nick's favorite room to haunt
Oh boy.
because of the dolls and it
Mhm.
draws children. I told Dale about Nick and I said, now Dale, there's a spirit that knows when I'm here at the hotel. He finds me. And I said, and he is not a very nice man. And I said, he has done some things to me. He's called me bad names. I try to keep my distance from him. I try to be very open and respectful and honest with the spirit. I don't provoke. Well, it made Dale mad.
Mhm.
I had heard the story before we stayed there about Nick and other things that she's experienced as well staying there. And so I decided I was going to call him out and told him, you pick on little women and little kids and come pick on a man, show yourself. And of course, we didn't get nothing at that time immediately. But I woke up in the middle of the night sometime, hours after I'd been asleep, and couldn't breathe. And it wasn't like had swallowed something or choking on anything in particular, an object. I couldn't breathe. It was almost like had a hand on my throat and was being choked out. Is what I would imagine it as. I could hardly even talk. And it finally got to the point, a good minute of that, and I was down on the ground on all fours on my hands and knees, trying to breathe, trying to gasp for air. And she's got the phone in her hand, about to call 911, telling me, should I call 911? And I guess she thought I was having a heart attack or
I
something.
thought maybe he was having a heart attack, a stroke, an allergic reaction where it closed his throat up and he couldn't breathe. The first thing that I went to was medical. That was
Yeah.
the first thing I went to.
Yeah.
And then it popped in my head, and this is how it happens with me. I get visions. And it popped in my head. Now, I've never seen Nick, but his name, big, bold letters came in my mind. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is Nick. He's attacking Dale. And I started to say, Nick, let go of him. Leave him alone. I said, I apologize for him provoking you. I apologize that he came on strong with you. I said, please, would you please let him go and leave him alone? And he let go of him.
After quite a while, I was about to go out. It was like a minute and a half into it. It had to have been that long. It was quite a while.
Right. And
Wow.
I told Dale, I said, Dale, you were just attacked by Nick. And he said, how do you know? I said, I know. I feel his presence. I know when he's in the room. He popped in my head. I said, at first I thought you were having a heart attack or a stroke. I was about to call 911. And then I got the vision and I thought, nope, that's not what it is. He's attacking Dale because he was mad that Dale confronted him and provoked him.
And I'd never
Wow.
had anything like that happen before. Just wake up and not be able to breathe. It
Mm.
hasn't been my MO any time before that. But it happened once after that.
So then it happened again.
Oh,
A couple of weeks later.
A couple of weeks later, we go back to the Jefferson Hotel, and that's my favorite hangout. And this time we're staying in a room called the Speakeasy Room. And as soon as we arrived, I could feel Nick's presence. I could feel him, but I didn't say anything to Dale because I didn't want to get him all riled up. And so we go to our room and we're just having a good time. We're not even thinking about Nick. We're not even talking to Nick. We're not doing a thing. We're just having a good time at the Jefferson Hotel, exploring Jefferson, Texas. We're just having a great time. That night, we go to sleep.
Well, I was woke up and said that I knew what I said. I was talking in my sleep, evidently, and like I never had before. You probably better you tell this because you was
Okay.
awake to hear it.
So in the middle of the night, I am awakened by Dale shouting. And I look over at him and his eyes are closed and he's asleep.
Hold on a sec. I got a text message. I gotta go upstairs real quick. I'll be right back. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Oh, no, no problem at all.
The baby's being a little rough, I guess. So
How
just
old is your
give
baby?
she's 9 months. Just
Oh,
yeah,
oh.
she's got teeth coming through and stuff, so presume cord.
I
And
started
then
with
yeah, you got your Dale was talking in his sleep and you were gonna tell us what you heard from your perspective.
yeah. So I looked over at him and his eyes are closed and he's obviously asleep, but he's shouting. And I'm thinking people who talk in their sleep don't shout. And he's saying, um, you know, and I'm looking at him and he says, I told you.
I already told you.
And then he said, I love you. And I'm thinking, what is going on here? And then the next thing, he goes to choking and doing the same thing he did in the doll room. Same thing. He can't catch his breath. He's clutching his neck. He's trying to catch his breath. He rolls off the bed. He's on the floor. And I'm screaming, Dale, Dale. And I know what's going on now. I know what's going on. It's Nick again.
Mhm.
And finally, Dale, I said, Nick, let go. I know you're here. Let go. And he let him go. So
He didn't have it going as long this time. It was about half the length of time, but
Mhm.
still, same thing. Woke up choking, and I didn't. She told me what I had said. That I remember what I'd said in my sleep, and I had no recollection. And generally, especially right before I wake up from a dream, I usually remember something about it.
yeah.
Especially if I were to be reminded something like that, you'd think I would remember that. But I don't have any recollection of saying that in my dream or sleep or in any way.
So he gets up off the floor, gets back in the bed, and he said, oh my gosh, did it happen again? He says, what happened? I said, Dale, did you hear, do you remember what you said in your sleep? And he says, was I talking in my sleep? I said, yes. And he said, what did I say? I said, you weren't saying it, you were shouting it. And he said, shouting it? And I said, yeah. And he said, what was I shouting? And I said, you said, I told you. And then the next thing you said, you already know. And then the next thing you said, I love you. And Dale's looking at me perplexed. And he's saying, what? I said all that? And I said, yes. I said, you freaked me out. I said, I was about ready to get out of this bed and run out the door because I didn't know what was going on with you. And I said, but then when you started choking, then I knew it was Nick. So Dale says, how do you know? And I said, well, if you're not sure of my gift, if you're not sure that I know he's here, let me get the spirit box out and we will see if he's here. So, and I wish we had recorded this.
No doubt.
But we were so upset that we didn't even think to record. So I got the spirit box out and I turned it on and I said, Nick, are you in the room? And you hear this man say, yes. He whispers it, yes. And I said, Nick, why did you attack Dale again? I told you. Class A EBPs, complete sentences. I told you.
I know. Well, it
And
looked
And
like
I
a different-
said, you told me what? You already know. And I said, I already know what. And I had already told Dale what he said. Dale's eyes are getting as big as saucers. We're waiting for the third line. I said, I already know what. I love you. We freaked out.
oh
Exactly
my
what Dale said in his
goodness.
sleep was repeated on the spirit box by Nick. Verbatim. And we couldn't believe it. And later we said, why didn't we record this? Well, we were in a state of mind that we didn't even think about that.
Mm,
We just wanted to make sure what happened to him was from Nick and not a medical problem.
right,
Because
right.
now this is the second time it's happened.
Well, the first thing that was asked to him was, why did you do this? And he said to hurt. And then he was asked, why do you want to hurt him? And he said, kill. And he was asked, why do you want to kill him? And that's when he came forth and said,
You
you already
know.
know, I already told you, I love you. The same words that I was told I said in my sleep.
Right.
We heard plain as day on the spirit box.
Yeah. So he was doing this to Dale to hurt him. And then he said to kill him. So Dale and I like to go to the Jefferson Hotel, and we thought, how are we going to resolve this? And
Hmm.
I said, Dale, now this is what I do. When I am anywhere doing an investigation and I feel threatened and I feel like we're among some bad stuff, I said, I say the Lord's Prayer. And I said, from now on, before you go to sleep, I want you to say the Lord's Prayer. Now,
Yep.
I do everything in threes. And the only reason I can think of that is I was born on August 3rd, and my angel number is 333. And I'll tell you more about the angel number here in a minute. But 333. So three is a number for me that
Hmm.
associates with me. And so I do everything in threes. So when I say the Lord's Prayer, I say the Lord's Prayer three times before, and then before when I leave and I get ready to go, I say the Lord's Prayer three times again. Now, do I sage all the time? No, I don't. Do I throw holy water around? No, I don't. But the Lord's Prayer to me is more powerful than sage and equal to holy water. So I tell your viewers, if you're ever in a situation where you're afraid and you feel that you are being threatened and you're not sure what's going on, but you know there's a spirit in the room and the spirit might not be a good spirit, always say the Lord's Prayer. And when we finish an investigation, that's another thing we say. We say the Lord's Prayer. When the investigation is over, we close it with a prayer. And we also open it with a prayer. So that's very important. Praying is very important. I'm a Christian. Dale's a Christian, and everything revolves around God. And we pray to Him, and we know He watches over us, and He keeps us safe. And that's why we always go to prayer for any time we feel that we need help. That's our lifeline.
We stayed there
Yeah.
the third time we stayed there at the hotel. I didn't even say anything to her about it, but I said a prayer of my own, and it was just for us to be protected and nothing bad to happen to either one of us while we're there. And nothing at all happened that night, coincidentally, and hasn't since.
That's right.
Like that, at least not in that way. We have done a couple of other hunts there since then, and we've actually we have recording of Nick's talking to us, and we learned a lot about Nick over the past few months that we've been there investigating him. He took his own life there at the hotel. Assuming it's at the hotel. That's what we.
Well, it was when it was a factory.
Yeah, right.
Mhm.
And supposedly shot himself in the head. We found out.
And he was how old?
Oh,
25 years old. We found out.
wow.
So we've been wanting to be able to get in some kind of archives back in the mid 1800s. I think that if I'm not mistaken, the building was built in 1852, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. But I'd like to look back and see some records and see if there was actually a fellow while it was a factory working there by the name of Nick that took his life at 25. That would seal the deal and make it really real.
Now, Pam and Jeremy
Yeah.
Jones, who owned the hotel, they have found a lot of artifacts associated with the hotel. They have found pictures. They're constantly digging. Jeremy found a disappointment room in the attic, and a disappointment room was something that a lot of wealthy people, particularly wealthy people, had whenever they had a child with a disability. So if the child had a disability, they would hide the child in a room in the attic that was called a disappointment room, and that's where the child lived and stayed. And Jeremy found a disappointment room in the attic of the Jefferson Hotel.
Like the flowers in the attic book.
Yes,
kind of thing.
That's exactly right. Yeah. Yep. So Jeremy and Pam are constantly researching, trying to find more background. They have found that it was a brothel at one time.
Oh,
It
wow.
was a hospital. It was old folks type home. What else did they find out that it
a factory and of course a hotel.
Yeah. So and it even had a skating rink in it at one time on the second floor, a skating rink. And so this hotel has been through many transformations. And now Pam and Jeremy have it. And for about 5 years before they got it, it sat empty, vacant. And of course, all the paranormal investigators were thinking, oh, please find somebody to buy this hotel. We need somebody that's going to keep it going because we've been investigating this hotel for years. And when we found out that our friends, Pam and Jeremy Jones, bought it, they are paranormal investigators, and Jeremy makes his own equipment for
nice.
for doing investigations. So we were thrilled when we found out Ghost Hunters bought the Jefferson Hotel.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we were very, very happy about it. So, and if you and your wife haven't been there, please go, please, and meet Pam and Jeremy. They are awesome people.
The whole town is something else. It's the third oldest city in Texas. Well, I've learned doing research.
Oh,
it's a
wow.
small town, but it's the third oldest city in Texas, named city as the state of Texas, I reckon. So,
right.
That's
and
pretty
we're
cool.
getting ready to have a huge ghost hunt called History Haunts and Legends. It's a paranormal convention, and the whole town turns into it. And it's run by Jody Breckenridge, who does ghost hunts every Friday and Saturday in Jefferson, Texas. And HHNL that's what we call it instead of having to say History Haunts and Legends. It will be April the 5th, and there will be 5 paranormal teams at 5 different locations. And you can get your tickets and you can go and investigate 5 locations with 5 different paranormal groups. And then during the day, at the convention center, they have people selling their books, their crafts. You've got people who are doing readings. You have people who are speaking about the paranormal. I mean, it is just a wonderful, wonderful convention, and it is going to be April the 5th. And if you want to get tickets, contact Jody Breckenridge. She's got a page connected with Jefferson, Texas, and you can get your tickets and go. My team, the para hunters, will be there, and I can't disclose the location we're doing yet because it hasn't been. We have to wait till Jody gives the go ahead, but my team will be there, and we will be hosting one of the locations.
Nice. That sounds exciting.
You really need to go. You would love it, Kevin. You would love it. I told Tommy he needs to go too. And it is
Yeah.
an awesome place.
We'll see
And
if we ever
are
get
you
Tommy
familiar
over
with
here.
Jen? Yeah,
With
are
who?
you familiar with Jen?
Yes.
Uh,
Yep.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've told Jen that she and her husband need to pay a visit to Jefferson Hotel and do that as well.
I believe
Yeah.
she's originally from Texas too.
I was just
So,
gonna say she's originally from Texas. Yeah.
Yeah.
And now she's up here in Newfoundland in
Yes.
Canada.
And where are you,
I'm in
Kevin?
Maine. I'm in Maine.
Oh my gosh.
I'm as close to being Canadian as an American can get.
right.
Wow, that is awesome. I love it. So let me ask you something. The only thing that I
Yeah.
really know about Maine are the original ghost hunters. Weren't they from Maine?
They're from New England. I don't think they're so I think like like Jason Hawes and that's who you're talking about, right?
Well, actually, Grant Wilson.
Yes. I think they're from Rhode Island and Connecticut, I think is where they're
Oh,
from.
oh, okay, okay. I thought maybe they were from Maine. Okay, I got it now. One of those itty bitty states.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, well, it might as well be Maine. Technically, we're so close together. Only takes a couple hours to travel to each state up here in New England. So,
Um,
um, I would technically say that it's would be one's. It's basically the same thing. We all experience the weather the same way and all that. So,
Right. Well, let me tell you quickly. I went to Estes, Colorado, to the Stanley
mm-hmm.
Hotel, and
Oh.
I attended a ghost convention there where the ghost hunters were. And I got to ghost hunt with the ghost hunters.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to meet Grant Wilson and really had a long talk with him and some of the other people that were there as well, and they were all awesome. But Grant gave me some good advice. So I told him this story about I bought a hunter's cabinet at an
Mm-hmm.
antique store. And the hunter's cabinet, it's from Europe and it's very beautiful. It's large, it's intricately carved out of wood, three-dimensional. It's such a magnificent piece. And they usually run about $2,000. And so I went into this antique store and I saw one that just blew me away. I just thought it was gorgeous. And I was over there awing over it. And the gentleman in the store asked me if I wanted to buy it. I said, "Oh, I can't." I said, "Something like this is way out of my price range." I said, "I can't afford this." He says, "No, I'll give it to you for a really good discount price." And I said, "Okay, what's that?" He says, "You can have it for $500." I said, "No way. Really? You're going to give this to me for $500?" And he said, "Yes." He says, "Take it. I want it out now." And I said, "Okay." And at the time, it didn't cross my mind, but I was feeling a lot of vibration, and being gifted, I do feel vibrations when I walk into places. Like I get this shaky vibration feeling. And I had been vibrating a lot in that store, but I didn't think anything of it. So I said, give me a day to go get a U-Haul and I'll come back and get it. So I go and get a U-Haul and come back the next day. I get it. I'm thrilled. I've just bought a hunter's cabinet for $500. I take it back to my house. I have that piece in my dining room. And about a week later, I start having all kinds of paranormal activity in the dining room.
Of
Dishes,
course.
dishes are breaking, glasses are falling off shelves, knocks on the wall, doors are opening on their own. And I'm thinking, what in the world? I said, why now am I having this activity? And it didn't cross my mind that it might be the hunter's cabinet. And so I called my cousin over, who is also gifted, and I said, Lee, I think I've got a ghost in my dining room. She says, okay, let's look and see if you do. So we got the recorders out and we started recording. And she asked the question, well, Jeannie, what do you think you see? Or what do you think you hear? And you hear this man come across and said, I already saw her. It was a man. Class A EVP. I already saw her.
Wow.
I freaked out. And I thought, oh my God, that's why the man sold that to me for $500. It came with a ghost. And so he kept making all these noises, and it was scaring me in the night. And I would go in there and say, stop. I said, I don't know what you're doing or why you're doing this, but stop. So I go on this trip to Estes, Colorado, and I meet Grant Wilson. I said, Grant, I have a ghost in my house, and he's in my dining room, and he came with a hunter's cabinet. And I said, he's making a lot of noise. He's scaring my family and my pets. And I said, what do I do? And he gave me the best advice. He said, what you do is you have to remember that these were once living, breathing people who walked this earth, who had family, who loved them, and they loved their family. And at some point, they had to leave this earth, but they're still here for some reason. And he says, you need to go in there and talk to him as if he was still on this earth as a living, breathing person. Go in there and talk to him the same way with the utmost respect, and go in there and tell him that you know that he's here and that he's welcome to stay. And then you lay down your rules. And I said, okay, Grant, I'm going to do that. So we leave. I go back. I go in there by myself, and I do exactly that. I go in and I talk to him. And I tell him, I said, I know that you're here, and I respect your presence. And I said, and you're welcome to stay, but you're going to have to stop scaring my family, my pets, and me. And I said, if you can live harmoniously with us in this house, you're welcome to stay. But if you can't, I'm asking you to leave now. And Kevin, from that day forward, he never did another thing. Never did another thing. Never made a noise, never knocked on a wall, never broke another dish, never knocked over glasses, never opened doors. I mean, but I could feel his presence, and he was in there. But we had come to an agreement.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the advice I got from Grant Wilson. And I will always remember him for that. And I tell everyone I meet, I got the best advice from Grant Wilson from the Ghost Hunters, and it works. And so I'm letting your viewers know that if they think they have a ghost in their house, which I believe that all places are haunted.
Yes, me too.
They are. Every place is haunted. You cannot get away from it. People say, I bought a brand new house. There is no ghost in here. I said, you want to bet?
Yeah, right.
I bet you I can find one. And so then I explained to them about the land and what was there before they were there and before the
Hmm.
house was there. I said, you've got to take all that into account. And I said,
Absolutely.
energy doesn't die. It's there and it still exists. And so I tell everybody if you've got a ghost that's making a lot of noise, a spirit that's wanting your attention all the time, you need to go in there and talk to him and have a heart-to-heart talk
Hmm.
and be respectful. Don't go in there and lay down the law and be forceful and say, well, if you don't, I'm going to do this and that. Don't do that. Just treat them like you would a real living, breathing person. And I also feel that way about when I go on investigations. I don't like to provoke. And I have found that we get more activity and more responses when we are kind and we treat the spirits with respect. We get more communication with them because they want to be treated just like anybody else.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I tell your viewers, please don't provoke anyone. Don't provoke any spirits at all. Just be as kind as you can, and let them know that you know they're there and that you're glad they're there, and that you would like to communicate on a peaceful level.
yeah. You could use that for the living too, to be honest
Exactly.
with
So
you.
we all want is respect, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Everybody
Mhm.
wants to know that they mean something to somebody. So
Exactly.
I find it really interesting the because I see like what Ghost Adventures and stuff, and he's always trying to be provoking more. Yeah. And I honestly I think when it comes to like TV stuff, I think a lot of it is more theatrical.
Drama
And
say, yeah.
also, yeah. Yeah. I mean they do like I get it, like they want it to be entertaining at the same time.
Right. Yep.
Um but I've been on re-investigations now, and all three times we've done prayers before and after, um tried to talk as respectful, and we get stuff. So it's a lot of, for me it's a lot of fun. You guys obviously seem like you enjoy it, and everybody that I've ever talked to that has done investigations really enjoy it. And in fact, I'm gonna start doing investigations with my cousin, and we're gonna record them and try and see like what we get and stuff like that, and like make a little like show for YouTube and stuff like that, and
Oh,
see
Yeah.
what happens. So
that would be great. And
yeah, I think so
there's
too.
something else I'd like to bring up to Kevin before we end our session is a lot of people will ask about animal spirits and
Mm-hmm.
they will say, I've lost, a pet that I dearly loved and
Mm-hmm.
they're heartbroken. Well, um, animals do have a spirit and they do come
Yes,
back.
I
And
agree.
I have proof of one of my little pets that I had for a number of years. His name was Hamlet. I kept him alive for almost 16 years, and he was a little schnauzer. And he was my baby. I wasn't able to have children of my own, and so he became like my child. And I
Mm-hmm.
did everything with him, and he went everywhere with me. And then the day came that I had to put him down because he had started going blind and lost his hearing. And my rule of thumb is when they stop eating, that's and drinking, that's the time.
Mm-hmm.
So he had stopped eating, he had stopped drinking. So I didn't want to take him to the vet to have him put down. So I called the vet and asked her if when she closed up for the night, if she could drop by my house and put Hamlet down. And she said, yes, I'll be happy to do that because I wanted Hamlet to be put down in a place he loved. And that was our home. And he loved the music room.
Mhm.
And I would go in the music room and play the piano and sing, and he would lay by my feet near the piano and listen to me. And he loved it. So I decided that's where I was going to put him down. So she arrived, and I went in the room holding Hamlet, and he was in my arms, and she put the shot, and he went peacefully to sleep in my arms. And of course, it was devastating to me, absolutely
Mm.
devastating, and it still pains my heart today. And that was like 20 years ago. And so um, my cousin felt sorry for me and thought that I needed some happiness in my life. And she surprised me with a puppy, and it was a Yorkie. And I wasn't ready for another dog. But when I saw this baby Yorkie, that was the cutest thing on earth, I could not refuse him. So I named him Boudin because he looked like a little sausage. So I named him Boudin. And so, but I called him Boo Boo for short. And so one day, Boo Boo was just barking his head off in the music room. I have a door, a French door with window panes, and he was standing up on the door, and he's looking in there, and he's barking his head off like he's some ferocious Rockweiler. And I said, "Boo, there's nobody in there. There's nobody in there." And he looks back at me and he goes to barking. And I said, "Boo, there's no one in there. Come on, come on." Well, he looked so cute standing on his little hind legs, acting so ferocious. I took a picture of him with my cell phone. Well, being an investigator, you always look at the background of the picture. And when I looked back into the background, there was the ghost of my little Hamlet in the room. And that's what Boudin was barking at. He
Oh,
saw Hamlet, and I caught him on film. And I'll send you the picture if you haven't seen it. I'll send you the
yeah, I'd
picture.
love
It
it.
is it is a very compelling picture you will ever see. And I saw that, and I just, you know how you lose your breath when you see something, and you just, it's like the
Yes.
whole world stands still because you're so shocked that you're
Yeah.
seeing what you're seeing. And that was the reaction. And I love this picture. And I have it on my face. I have it as one of my screensavers on my phone. And it's a great picture. And for your viewers, if they will go to the Parahunters uh, page on Facebook, you will also see a picture of Hamlet's ghost and some other pictures of ghosts that and spirits that we have caught on film. So,
Nice.
and we'd appreciate if your viewers would give us a like and support us. We really would appreciate it. So it's Para Hunters.
Perfect. Nice. You guys have a Instagram or website too, or just Facebook?
No, you can get a hold of us through the Para Hunters. We're both
Okay.
on the team, and that's the best way. And we have a wonderful team. We've got Till Gray, author of many paranormal books. We've got Tui Snyder, who also has written books. Gosh, we've got Jamie Moses, who is our doll whisperer. She can communicate with haunted dolls and has a collection of them. She's really an interesting person. And we've got Kirby, and we've got Tui, and we've got a lot of talented people. And Martha Hazard and Susan Hill, all of those people are authors of books as well. And so we've got a very talented paranormal team.
Nice. That's awesome. I like that. Um, well, well, guys, I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. I know I know it was a little bit rocky there last week when we were originally scheduled, but I'm so happy that it worked out this time. You know, time is
Absolutely.
greatest currency. I tell everybody that, so I appreciate you taking the time
Right.
to do this with me.
Well,
It really means a lot.
Well, thank you, Kevin. Dale and I are so happy that you invited us. We're very honored, and we are big fans now of your podcast, and we will be listening to some of your other guests. And again, thank you so much for having us on, and it was such a pleasure. And you have a beautiful family, and you are definitely blessed. So thank you so much, Kevin.
Thank you. And for all the listeners out there, if you like today's episode, please like, follow, share, subscribe. Go check Jeannie and Dale and their team at Para Hunters on Facebook, and give them a like. And also leave a rating and review. If your podcatcher doesn't
Yes.
let you leave a review, you can leave one on the website, where the weird ones are podcast.com. That's also where you can get hot sauce, coffee, and some t-shirts. I'm not wearing the t-shirts. The t-shirts behind me, on the side, right there, something like that, or like a design of Bigfoot or something, But other than that, guys, you know the drill. Question everything and stay weird. Bye.
This concludes our broadcast day. Click.
Because in the end, none of us have very long on this earth. Life is fleeting. And if you're ever distressed, cast your eyes to the summer sky, when the stars are strung across the velvety night, and when a shooting star streaks through the blackness, turning night into day. Make a wish.